What's up, you guys? It's Low Beauty Demon, and I'm back to continue talking about the Gabbie Hanna series, part 2. Today, I'm going to be covering just the Trisha Paytas episodes because honestly, all that stuff with Jessie Smiles, I feel like it deserves its own careful examination, and I wanted to talk about how I felt about the Trisha Paytas stuff before I went into all of that. First, though, before I get into it, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so you get a notification every time I post, because I do not have a regular upload schedule. Sorry. Also, everything I say in here is just my opinions. I'm just basing this on what I'm seeing on the internet. Please don't send anybody any hate or negativity. That's not what this is about. This is just observations. Leave your comments down below. We don't need to spread any more negativity in the world, you know. That's not what I'm trying to do here. Okay, so technically this was 2 episodes, but it was more like a part 1 and then a part 2. And this was all about Trisha Paytas, which I feel like I've already talked about Trisha Paytas and Gabbie Hanna together at least once. So a lot of it felt like it was just a lot of recapping. But this episode was called Chapter 5, Trisha Paytas Can't Stop Lying. Both of these videos have age restrictions, so I'm wondering if that's because of Trisha Paytas, to be totally honest with you. I can't remember if Gabbie's other videos have age restrictions. I think one other one does, but I'm not sure which one. It might be the Drama Channel call-out video. These are both 40-minute videos. The first 18 minutes of this is a vlog. In this vlog, she talks about Danielle Bregoli, Bad Baby. She filmed this when Danielle Bregoli was coming forward about her experience at Turnabout Ranch, which is the ranch that Dr. Phil has all of the kids sent to. These places are horrendous. I cannot believe they still exist or ever did exist, and it's just a whole disgusting thing. And then she does talk about like the over-sexualization of women in media, and especially like young underage women in media like Danielle Bregoli. And something she highlights here, and she relates to herself, because you know, whenever she talks about these people, she does have to relate it personally to herself. But she brings up a good point that I do think about a lot, and that is when people reach celebrity, especially if it's like a very quick amount of celebrity very fast, you tend to get stunted at the age of when you got your fame, which is why we do see a lot of child stars tend to have really turbulent adult lives, because they never gained that maturity past, you know, maybe the age of 12, or, you know, Danielle Bregoli became famous when she was 13, or you see people like Corey Feldman, who, I mean, how old was he? He was like 9 or something. So we do see that sometimes people who maybe don't have like well-adjusted families and who aren't ready for the limelight do have these sort of problems with maturity. Gabbie relates this to herself because she skyrocketed to fame when she was 22 on Vine. So she kind of became stuck at 22. She got a job on MTV that she didn't audition for. She was able to work at BuzzFeed. She got a book deal just because she asked for it. You know, she was getting things handed to her. So why would she change? Why would she try to like mature and grow as a person? What's weird is I was thinking about this as I was watching just these Trisha Paytas episodes. If I did not know who Gabbie Hanna was, like had never seen any of her videos, had never seen her Twitter, did not see any kind of commentary on her or anything like that, I could totally understand sympathizing for her, because these Trisha Paytas episodes are very humanizing in a sense, because let's be honest, it's really not hard to look good compared to Trisha Paytas. Gabbie does share that Dr. Phil asked her to be on the show. I mean, he does only like crazy train wrecks and stuff. I feel like he probably would have been kind of disappointed to have Gabbie on his show, because she wouldn't, I don't think she would have acted like all outlandish and crazy, but I feel like it would have been a very interesting, it would have been a very interesting analysis for sure. And then she goes on some rant about the D'Amelio sisters and like other TikTokers who are famous just because they're famous, and it's not their fault that they won like a lottery. Well, the lottery, what I would assume would be like the genetic lottery, being like young and pretty and thin. But the real problem and the reason like a lot of people are hating on them is it's also because they're white creators and they have gotten their fame off of dances that are created from black creators. And then the problem is that the people who are creating these dances are not getting the recognition as to these girls that have won the lottery, as Gabbie put it. I'm not super involved with like TikTok. I barely ever use it. This remark was just a little insensitive. I don't think she's fully understanding the scope of everything either. And she goes into where her rants really start, which is usually her bedroom, on her bed. She'll be looking at God knows what. I have no idea. She starts talking about oversharing on the internet. And I think that's part of her problem, is that she's she's a big oversharer. She says this is a symptom of ADHD. She has some screenshots that say it, so it obviously has to be true. But I do think she just overshares way too much, and that has been a huge part of her downfall because it allows people like me, essentially, to pick apart everything. And that's kind of what this entire series has been, right? Just her oversharing, like, way too much. She does start to, like, really break down in this, where she's having very emotional moments of crying, and I'm not gonna ridicule her for that or anything, but she does say some interesting things in here. She's talking about how when she went to therapy, she would beg them, please tell me how I'm crazy. Basically asking them, like, what kind of crazy am I so we can fix me? Which, I mean, I'm not a therapist, but from a therapeutic standpoint, telling your patient how they're crazy, it seems kind of counterproductive in a sense. Like, sure, you give a diagnosis so that way you guys can come up with some sort of treatment plan. Say, well, this is how you're crazy and this is what it is. It's just like a lot. And I feel like if that was the exact sentence that she used in therapy, those were probably very emotional charged moments. And, you know, therapists have to really respond carefully in those moments because they don't want to be triggering in some other way. I don't know, those are hard questions for therapists to answer. Then she has a whole little segment where she talks about like her toxic relationship with the internet, and I 100% agree. I feel like a lot of people do, to be totally honest with you. She said her story times, which is what she built her channel on, really did help her quiet her mind, and it also allowed her to catalog these stories so she wouldn't be constantly repeating them in her head a lot, almost to the point where she makes it seem like it was obsessive, and this really helped her in the long run. At this point, she is starting to sob, and she actually says something that I found very alarming. It's kind of a long quote, but I want to read it because I don't want to mince her words or say the wrong thing. I want you guys to know exactly what she said. So she said, I have this weird fear of forgetting shit. Why am I so afraid to forget stuff or lose my memory? Oh, because I'm afraid I won't remember reality. And at that point, she like really starts crying. Honestly, that's some next level shit, man. I mean, I'm afraid of forgetting stuff too, 100%, because dementia runs in my family. So I totally understand the fear of forgetting things. I journal a lot too. I do save a lot of stuff. Like, I know my last video was kind of like, why do you save receipts all the time? I do save a lot of things. The reason she kind of made it seem like she was saving stuff is she knew she would have to use it as evidence later. But fear of forgetting memories it's different than fear of losing reality. Fear of losing reality is full-blown psychosis. And I'm not saying that Gabbie Hanna is in a state of psychosis in any way, shape, or form, but that statement is very alarming. And I hope that that's something that she is really working on, because that's, like I said, that's some next level shit. I would recommend that she focus on all this stuff privately and like really work deeply with a therapist and do some really intensive inflection. But she put something on the screen that said, because all this stuff happened publicly, she feels like she cannot heal until this is resolved publicly, because she has tried to move on privately and it just doesn't work for her. So 18 minutes into this, we finally get into the Trisha Paytas, which... and what Trisha Paytas did wrong. Now, Gabbie used she pronouns the entire time she was talking about Trisha, and because of that, in my notes, I wrote she the entire time. I do always try to use people's correct pronouns. Sometimes I slip up, but also Trisha has put on their TikTok that they do go by she, her, or they, them, so I may use those interchangeably. I will be trying to use they, them, because that is what they, publicly said that they would like people to use, but if I slip back on she, they've stated that it is not a problem to them, even though we all know Gabbie has been corrected and refuses to do so. Gabbie calls herself nice in this and says, I know it's hard to believe, but I'm actually really nice. No, I don't know. It's just like in 2021, I don't think I believe people when they say that they're nice. Like, a lot of people say that they're nice people, and when people say that they're nice people, especially like a lot, and especially in a series of videos like this, I may not be inclined to believe them. Side note, I just noticed that her hoodie in this video also says awful, like she's just labeling herself awful. Her shirts have been very interesting in this series. They'll be like, I'm sensitive. So Gabbie revisits the Burnout podcast and how was she not supposed to respond after Trisha posted multiple videos saying all sorts of things and making all sorts of claims. She also didn't watch them. She says in this video she did not watch those. There are many ways that you could respond to that or just not respond at all to that. Gabbie does admit she sees now that she and Trisha just have a different idea of what friends are and what friendship means to them, and she just has to accept that. And this is where the video could have just stopped. She could have just stopped the video, posted it, and that would have been that. But we are 23 minutes into a 47-minute video. So obviously she's got a lot more to say. She goes through her texts again because remember, these are her strongest ties to memories. Memories that Trisha Paytas just doesn't even remember, like flat out dead ass, as Gabbie Hanna would say. She dead ass doesn't remember these memories. What is interesting though is she shows a bunch of texts where Trisha reached out to her about the rice gum incident. And from what it at least looks like through the text, because apparently this is the only way they communicated, it does seem that Trisha was at least some sort of a motivating factor to get Gabbie to at least file a report against Rice Gum. Gabbie does say, you know, it's crazy that she texted me this, and then later they claimed in my podcast that they had no idea what the Rice Gum situation was at all. So she does have a lot of like interesting gotcha moments in here, but pretty much the majority of this video is just pointing out like all the inconsistencies back and forth between their text messages and things that were said publicly and things that were in the Burnout podcast, including things that were cut from Burnout. She does also link the entire unedited version. I mean, obviously like a few things were cut out. It's just more back and forth is really what it is. It's just more back and forth between two adult women. Again, Gabbie says a lot of the harassment that resulted from this made her suicidal. Well, I feel like specifically she says the stuff that Trisha incited made her suicidal. And I mean, that is a lot to put on somebody. Both of these people are dealing with mental health issues. It just becomes so dark and so difficult to follow. Honestly, it is a lot of stuff that I have already covered too. I don't know. I can't do like a full breakdown of this like I did the other ones because it's just so much of the same shit. It's just more back and forth. That's all this is. No matter what Gabbie comes out with, Trisha is never gonna back down from her claim that she doesn't remember. I think we just need to remember that the time frame that these screenshots that Gabbie are putting up is when Trisha was dealing with a very intense, undiagnosed, untreated mental disorder and was in active addiction. She was using at the time. So she probably just flat out does not remember these things. And I mean, we'll also be honest, Trisha Paytas can be kind of fake and placatey as well. So I feel like that's probably a huge part of it too. She just doesn't remember because it was just a completely inconsequential relationship to her. She didn't care. But when it comes down to it, these two are so similar. And I think that's why they have such a hard time getting along. I find it ironic that Gabbie Hanna tells Trisha Paytas to have some self-awareness. Just a drop would do wonders. And I was like, girl, I've been saying the same thing about you. But I mean, it doesn't mean that Trisha Paytas could not benefit from some self-awareness too. Like I said though, if I had not seen any Gabbie Hanna stuff before and had just seen this, I would definitely understand her point of view. There are parts in this video where she is super calm when she's talking about Trisha and she makes a lot of very excellent points. Maybe if she had made something more just like this a few months ago when a lot of that shit with Trisha was kicking off, I don't know. I just like if this whole like Trisha Paytas section had existed without the rest of the series, she may have come out looking pretty good against Trisha, especially right now with the whole frenemies stuff happening. That could have been a good PR move in my opinion. And then she ends this video with the words across the screen, "Leave me the fuck alone, LMAO fuck." And then she makes a part 2 of this Trisha Paytas thing. Now this part 2 is her reacting to videos that Trisha made about her because apparently she never watched them. She just got the gist from like comments and stuff. And she does mention at some point in one of this that she probably should have watched these because it makes a lot more sense now and she would have been able to defend herself better. I can understand not watching every video about you, but if there's a lot of strife coming from one particular video, I would totally be watching that video. This is just a straight reaction video, honestly. She's just watching Trisha's videos. The first video she watches is called Why I Don't Trust Gabbie Hanna, and it's the video where Gabbie is talking about her and Jason Nash and the herpes incident and the rumor and all that. It's just so tiring and boring to just keep talking about the same stuff over and over and over again. I don't know why adults aren't moving on from these things. This is, Gabbie even says it, it's very high school. But this is just a straight reaction video. She's watching it, she pauses and responds to whatever Trisha is saying. And like I said, it's not hard to look better than Trisha Paytas. I didn't break down like a ton of stuff that comes comes from this, because really it's difficult to react to a reaction video. So I just made a couple notes. Basically, I said, I don't know why anybody would ever try to be Trisha Paytas's friend. It just seems like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's gonna go well or end well. Gabbie, of course, inserts more text message into this to support what she's saying based on her reactions to what Trisha is saying. And I will admit, like, there are a lot of text messages spanning over a couple years. So I guess I am inclined to believe that Gabbie and Trisha talked way more than Trisha recollects. But once again, I don't really think I trust Trisha Paytas's memory for shit. What's interesting is these two people are just fighting each other nonstop about things that happen publicly. And I don't know, I feel like this is a lesson as to why you should not live your entire life on the internet, because then you get stuck in ridiculous internet fights with people for years and years and years on end. The back and forth between Gabbie and Trisha is just so much. It could have ended at any point. Gabbie had the power to end it in this a while ago. And I think in this situation, just in the bubble of Trisha Paytas, Gabbie Hanna, Gabbie could easily just shut this conversation down. I would just stop responding to her. Like, maybe put out a public statement like, look, whatever Trisha says, I'm not going to respond to this anymore. Be the bigger person. I think also asking all of her fans to not engage with any of this either would be a huge part of it. She weaponizes her fans. And then it creates this like bigger problem, because it's not just Gabbie and the other creators, in this instance Trisha, it's all of their fans fighting all the time. It's just a lot. So yeah, this drama between them never ends. And of course, this video just kicks things up even more. I think Ethan's mom said it best. These two are two peas in a pod. They really are. They're almost the same person. Other funny things is Gabbie will say things about Trisha that Trisha says about Gabbie. They just say the same things about each other back and forth, about like stalking each other and copying each other, and you're single white femaling me. And if you don't know what single white female is, it's a movie where I'm copying somebody. And yeah, people like don't understand when I make that reference. So Google it, check it out. It's a creepy movie. Trisha has called Gabbie scary. Gabbie calls Trisha scary. They're scared of each other. For people that are scared of each other, they really like to antagonize and engage with each other. When I'm scared of things, I don't go near them. I avoid them like the plague. Now, I did actually watch this video on YouTube, so I gave Gabbie the view. I did look down in the comments. I didn't look too deep in the comments because honestly, I don't want the comments to kind of like sway my view. But the top comment, and I wish I took a screenshot. If I can go back and find it, I will. But this comment said, I wish Jenna Marbles was still here making edible soap for her dogs or some shit. Me too. Gabbie does mention that her therapist called Trisha evil. So her therapist does watch what happens on the internet and is aware of Gabbie's presence on the internet in some way, and watches other people that she engages in drama and conflict with. I don't know, it seems like a little unethical in some way. I would think as a therapist, I would not want to have like any kind of knowledge of what goes down on the internet, because that would really skew your view of your client in some way. What if you saw a tweet that your client did and you didn't agree with it? Then all of a sudden you're like, wow, how am I supposed to treat this person? You know, as a therapist, therapists are trained to always see the good in people, and it would be very difficult if you're seeing what somebody like Gabbie Hanna is doing online, or seeing people's responses to Gabbie Hanna online. Gabbie calls on Trisha to just be like a rational person, because in this moment Gabbie is being rational, but what I don't think Gabbie is able to understand is Trisha does not live in that same kind of rational world that a lot of us do. Trisha deals with a lot of different emotional things. I mean, I just feel like a lot of times Gabbie is speaking from her own experiences and is not completely open to what the other side might look like. Basically, they're both kind of toxic people. I hope they both get the kind of help that they need. They both overshare way too much on the internet, and it has done neither one of them any good. That is it for today's video. That's my kind of take reaction to the whole Trisha Paytas mini series that Gabbie jammed into here. It might take me a little bit longer to go over the video about Jessie Smiles. It's not technically part of the series, but it's such a big deal and I do want to address it. I'm not going to go over the video she dropped outside of the series about Angelica Oles, because like I said, I'm done talking about that situation. It's too much, but I do want to talk talk about what's going on with Jessie Smiles because Jessie has posted a response, but I've also decided I need a little more context again, so I'm gonna go and listen to the 3-hour phone call, and I wanna go back and watch both of their original videos addressing the situation as well, so I have a complete full context of at least the history of their call-outs to YouTube to each other. So it's gonna take me a minute longer to research that. So if that is something that you would like to see and you like today's video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you guys later.